Wolfden, welcome back to Soul Plus Systems. Take a breath with me for a second before we go anywhere else. System online. This isn't a comeback episode. Nothing here broke. Nothing here went offline. This is a system online moment. And there's a difference. Comebacks imply collapse. They imply disappearance. And they imply something needed rescuing. And what we're doing here is different. What we're doing here is continuity. 3 seasons in, 45,000 views later on YouTube, episode shipped when it was loud and when it was quiet, when motivation was high, and when it was nowhere to be found. No disappearing acts, no dramatic exits. No, I'll be back when it feels better. Just build. And then build again. And then build again anyway. And most people don't fall off because they lack intelligence. They don't fall off because they lack talent. They fall off because they never built something that could survive weather. They built personalities instead of systems. And they built motivation instead of structure. And they built excitement instead of endurance. And excitement, it always runs out. This space was never meant or built for spectators. It was never built for people who needed applause to stay consistent. It was built for builders who understand something uncomfortable but true. Staying is a skill. And if you're here right now, listening to this episode, it's not because you got lucky. It's because you stayed through the boring middle, the quiet uploads, the non-viral weeks, the moments where nobody was clapping and the algorithm didn't care. That is not an accident. That's training. And here's the most part people never want to hear. Consistency isn't exciting. It's repetitive. It's unglamorous. It's often invisible, but it is undefeated. Soul Plus Systems exist because emotion alone is not enough, and structure alone is hollow. Emotion without structure burns people out. Structure without emotion turns people into machines that eventually break. This is fire with form, desire with discipline, identity with infrastructure at its core. This is where you don't have to pretend you're fine, but you also don't get to collapse and call it authenticity. You're allowed to feel. You're not allowed to disappear. That's the code here. So if you're new, welcome. And if you've been here since the earlier days, welcome back. The system never went offline. We just kept building while the noise came and went. Let's talk about receipts. Not the intellectual ones. And not the quotes that you screenshot. and not the ideas that you agree with but never implement. The real ones. The kind that show up in your body. The kind that show up in your calendar. The kind that show up in how you respond under pressure. Receipts aren't just outcomes. They're behaviors repeated when nobody's watching. And this is where a lot of people get uncomfortable. Because they want transformation without repetition. And they want strength without strain. And they want results without regulation. And that is not how systems work. You don't stay strong through storms by thinking harder. You don't stay clear through chaos by consuming more information. You stay standing by treating your body like it's part of the system. Movement isn't optional if you plan to endure. Rest isn't laziness if you plan to last. Fuel matters, and hydration matters, and sleep matters. Not because it looks good on a checklist, but because burnout is a system's failure and not a badge of honor. Burnout doesn't mean you're dedicated. It means something in the system was ignored for far too long. Momentum isn't magic. It's mechanical. If the result of small, unglamorous promises kept over time. And here's the part most people miss. Discipline isn't punishment. It's protection. Every time you move your body when you don't feel like it, you're teaching your nervous system that you can be trusted. Every time you hit publish when it's quiet, you're reinforcing identity. Every time you choose consistency over comfort, you're stacking a receipt that doesn't expire. You don't wake up one day motivated. You wake up trained. And this is why I don't separate self-care from building. Self-care isn't indulgence here. It's load-bearing. If the system collapses under stress, it was never strong. It was just lucky for a while. Strength isn't aesthetic. It's functional. It's being able to think clearly when emotions spike. It's being able to stay present when storms hit. And it's being able to keep your word to yourself when nobody's checking. Those are the receipts. Not the kind you flex. The kind that that makes you keep standing when shit gets real. And let's clear something up. The Powerball doesn't create freedom. It creates exposure. And that's not bitterness, that's math. People love the fantasy of sudden arrival, the moment where everything changes without requiring them to change. But systems don't work that way. Freedom isn't won, it's built. And building is boring to people addicted to luck. Everything here was self-taught, self-built, fueled by desire, willpower, and sheer determination. No shortcuts, no jackpots, no miracle moment where everything clicked overnight. Just repetition, correction, and adaptation over and over again. Luck is fragile. Discipline compounds. Luck collapses under pressure, and systems get stronger. That's why people who rely on luck panic when things get quiet, and builders don't. Builders understand that silence isn't failure. It's often construction. And wolves don't wait to be chosen. They adapt, they organize, and they endure. And if you're waiting for a break, this path will frustrate you. If you're waiting for permission, this space will irritate you. But if you're building something real, something that has to survive boredom, doubt, and storms, this will feel like home, because nothing here depends on chance. It depends on choice. This system stayed online because it was designed to, not for perfection and not for pressure. Surplus systems exist for people who are done outsourcing their future to motivation, luck, or external validation. This is where discipline meets identity, and where desire is shaped into structure, and where momentum is trained and not wished for. And that's where the vault comes in. The vault isn't content, it's not hype, it isn't inspiration on repeat. It's where the blueprints live, the rituals, my actual framework, systems that hold when life gets loud. The vault is not for everyone, and it's not supposed to be. It's for builders who are done waiting for permission, who understand that sovereignty is built and not granted, who are willing to train consistency instead of tracing adrenaline forever. And if you're ready to stop spectating and start structuring, if you want systems that survive storms instead of collapsing under them, the vault is open. No pressure, no chasing, just an invitation to build properly. System online. Wolfden active. We are still building and stacking receipts. This has been Soul Plus Systems. Season 3, Episode 6.